630 laws. Were they able to keep them? Galatians 3:10 says, "It is written, for as many as are the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them." Do you know or knew anyone except Jesus that was capable of the law? Exodus 19:10. We jumped Exodus 19:8. It is written, all the people answered, all that the law has spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. Here is the purpose of the law. Let's jump in Romans 5:19. I welcome you. I'm Brigitte Balmy for Paracletos. Welcome, and I hope as we are going verses by verses in the book of Galatians, we will start today with the chapter 4, going verses 1 to 10. Romans 5:19 says, "It is written, for as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so also by one man's obedience many will be made righteous." We take another version here and let's see, compare a little bit with also that's the Aramaic Bible. For just as because of the disobedience of one man the many became sinners, so also because of the obedience of the one the many become righteous. Another one with the faithful version. For even as by the disobedience of the one man many were made sinners, in the same way also by the obedience of one man shall many be made righteous. If we are going to the book of Deuteronomy, we have blessings, but we also have curses. Let's see what is established here there. Let's read it. It is written, the big title for this book of Deuteronomy 28:15 is Curses for Disobedience. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all His commandments and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. You will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading fruit will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land, and the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks. You will be cursed when you come in and cursed when you go out. The whole book until the verse 68 is a series of curses that will overtake you if you do not obey all the law. But Deuteronomy 15 speak about the curses. All His commandments. Then that means 630 laws. Were they able to keep them all? If we read James 2, verse 10, it is written, if you obey every law except one, you are guilty of breaking them all. If you take another version, for whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbled in one point, he has become guilty of all. We go a little bit down and it is actually the same comparing the Bibles here, whoever keeps the whole law but stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of them. The book of Galatians, chapter 5, speaks about also the course is everyone who cannot keep the law, and the law was so demanding. Before we go and follow the book of Galatians 4, that we will go verse by verses today, we start with the chapter 4, verse 1. And before we begin, let's remind ourselves that Paul uses letters to write to the churches. They are called epistles. These are the books of Paul to the Romans. Those are a series of letters, as at the very beginning the Bible has no chapters and division marks or no numbers as we have today, all was a text form. Today we have chapters, numbers and paragraphs. That makes things much easier for us. We go through those letters. It was one block, so what are those letters talking about? In Galatians chapter 3, verse 3:29, it speaks about heirs according to the promise of Abraham's seed. And we find out in verse 4 that out of this part of Abraham's seed were born of the saved people. From the part of Abraham's seed were born of, we are saved. We are this part from Abraham's seed, the spiritual part. Then we become heirs of salvation according to the promise. What was the promises? There are two parts. Yes, right. God's promise, Abraham the land for his seed to dwell in for eternity according to the Bible. And then, but for us, right, this is the part, the spiritual part, yes. There's a spiritual seed, those who are Christian and born again. That's how we receive the promise. With that in mind, let's begin chapter 4, verse 1. In verse 1, we read, it is written, I mean that the heir, the one then coming for salvation, as long as he is a child, is no different from a slave, for he is the owner of everything. Here he speaks about a child. The heir, as long as he is a child, has a lot of common with a slave, but he speaks about being a heir of salvation as a child. And Ephesians 6:1 says, yes, verse 1 to 6, in chapter 6, says, it is written, slaves, obey your healthy masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but like slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Again, it is a heart issue here. You do not obey Christ because you want something from Him, like you want to obtain something, that you do only obey Him in this moment, but you obey Him because He loves you first and you love Him, and this is an exchange, this is a relationship, a deep relationship with Christ. It is the same for the children. The children have a relationship with their father, their mother. So the children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is the right thing to do. We are going to Romans 5:20. What was the purpose of the law? We read here that there is much confusion about the consequences of Adam's sin as it relates to the law of Moses, until one accepts that the root of all sin is traced back to Adam's one original sin, which brought death into the world. People generally believe that man is basically good, while the doctrine of the original sin teaches that man is inherently bad. Because of our identity with sinful Adam. To believe that humanity is fundamentally flawed based on Adam's sin in the garden is not accepted by the philosophy of the world. And yet the Bible teaches that we are not sinners because we sin. We sin because we are sinners. We are sinners through our association with Adam's sinful race. And death is the terminal outcourse for all. Adam brought sin into the human race, and where there is sin, there is death. You must understand that both were created. Death was already there before Adam's sin, but death wasn't activated. Death was activated the moment Adam disobeyed God. Indeed, the cemetery is the greatest witness to man's sinfulness. Death has not and cannot be cured. As far as our humanity is concerned, death reigned from Adam to Moses because of Adam's single transgression, and not because of man's sinfulness, for all are born in sin. All are born dead in trespasses and sin. It was the one offense of Adam which brought death into the entire human race. And before the Mosaic law was given, there was no spoken or written law for man to break, and yet death continued to reign in the life of all mankind. Only Adam broke God's law by eating in the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge. None of his progenitor could be charged with breaking God's law because there was no law to break. And yet all suffered the consequences of sin, suffered the consequences for one man's disobedience to the law of God. Only one law: do not touch, do not eat. And the consequences, we have this: death is activated. The consequences of sin, which is death, because in Adam all die, because sin and death was passed from Adam to all his descendants. The law came in under Moses so that sinners will know that they were sinners. The law was there to point at you: you are a sinner. The law was a tool that God used to show us what sin is. The law was not the mean to forgive sin, but to identify sin in our lives. God implemented the law as an instructor to show that we are sinners who need a Savior. And later Paul, our apostle, tells us that the law is a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ. God's law was given to all people so that they could see how sinful they were. The law was given. It's holy. It's good. But it really went good for us because the reason was it shows us how sinful we are. It didn't make us holy. It told us how bad we were. And when we come